Hello, everybody. It's your girl V, and welcome back to Resilience in Mind, where we talk about pretty much whatever I want to talk about, right? But no, we're talking about trending topics and things that affect us every day. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about tariffs because I know there's a lot of outrage and a lot of concern, around the word tariffs because, it's Trump, and I feel like in this day and age, everything is so politicized. We kind of up the ante a little bit when it comes to anything politically. So I just kind of wanted to share some facts and obviously give some of my opinion on tariffs. So let's get started, you guys. So on April 2nd of 2025, Donald Trump announced that he is going to implement tariffs, basically with the goal of reshaping the U.S. trade relationships, right? So these measures include a 10% tariff on all imported goods, which will be effective on April 5th, 2025. Additionally, he is going to apply reciprocal tariffs, meaning if India is charging us 15% for U.S. imported goods, we're now going to start charging India 15% for their imported goods. Et cetera, when it comes to every other country, which in theory that sounds fair, right? If you're going to charge me $20 to sell products in your home, I'm not going to charge you $5 to sell your products in my house. So it's going to be 20 each way, right? Cool. But we do have higher tariffs that will be imposed on other countries, which the Trump administration have deemed unfair when it comes to their practices. So these ones include countries like China, Cambodia, Vietnam, and the European Union. China being the highest with a 54%, Cambodia 49%, Vietnam 46%, and the European Union 20%. I know that these numbers, they sound scary. We get a lot of our products from China, and we get a lot of products from Vietnam. When I buy a shirt, whether it's from a US-based company, and I look at the tag, it's going to say made in China, made in Vietnam, made in India, wherever other third world country that they go to source these products, right? So this has a lot of people stressed out and concerned about what will be my purchasing power, because I would be lying if me personally, I feel like we're already in a recession. I felt like we've been in a recession for the longest, and I feel as if we have a limb that no longer serves us, and instead of cutting it off because it's necrotic and it's starting to get infectious and it's going to become septic to the whole body, we're just trying to give some antibiotics here and there, and let's patch it up, and there's another wound, let's put another bandage and stitches, but when in all reality the limb needs to be amputated. That's kind of how I feel about the US economy. For the past 5 years now, I felt like our governments haven't been as honest as they could be when it comes to the real situation as far as the US economy, and everybody's trying to, how can I say that? They're just trying to avoid the inevitable. Recessions happen. It's a cycle. And I feel like nobody wants it to happen on their term. And I feel it's about time that we start to rip the bandage off, so that way we can actually dig deep and cut out what needs to be cut out, so that way we can truly repair, if this economy is even repairable, to be honest. I know a lot of people have hopes that Trump is going to come in and make America great, or if Kamala is here, she'll be doing things better. But in my honest opinion, I've always felt that no matter who comes into office, the inevitable was going to happen, that we were going to be in a recession. I'm not saying that certain policies and decisions that are being made are not going to make make the situation worse or better, but It's really, and I'm taking so many pauses, and I'm really trying to gather my thoughts here, because this is something that people the people that I listen to have been warning about for years. The market isn't looking good, and I'm not going to just blame it on tariffs, because things just haven't been looking good for a long time. So let me go back on topic and let's explain the rationale behind why Trump is so adamant that tariffs will make the economy better, okay? So his intention behind the tariffs is basically to strengthen the US economy and to protect American workers, which makes sense because a lot of American workers who worked at factories, back in the day, you were able to have a factory job, have 2 kids, your wife, 2 cars, a dog, a decent house with the white picket fence, have a decent retirement, go on vacation 1 to 2 times a year, and live the so-called American dream. But when corporations started moving overseas because it was cheaper to hire somebody to make a t-shirt for $3 a week, in the stance of that business owner, yeah, why not? So a lot of companies up and left the US, moved overseas because it was cheaper for them to make their products at a larger scale overseas versus here in the US. Because here in the US, I have to offer you a 401k or a pension. I have to offer insurance. I have to give you sick days, maternity leave. I have to give you a decent wage, and I can't keep you at that wage forever. Every year you're going to expect a review of your performance, and you're most likely going to expect a raise, right? And what people were getting paid, in 1942, you can't pay that person in 2025 because the cost of living and inflation has gone up. So what a lot of companies did was they ended up moving these companies overseas. So in his mind, if I make it more expensive for you to have your factories overseas, if you move your companies back to the US, we'll be able to hire Americans and strengthen the US economy, because if more people are working, more people are going to spend. You understand? Now, another reason is enhanced national security, which I'm not 1000, I'm not really opposed to it, because we just went through a pandemic with COVID-19, and that in itself, some people believe was biological warfare. Some people feel like it was an accidental leak. Some people feel like it was on purpose. Wherever you stand on that, we cannot ignore the fact that we are vulnerable. And if there is a country that wants to, do another biological threat, or I can't say another because we don't know if COVID was a biological threat, biological warfare that was done on purpose. But if somebody wants to do that on purpose, it'll be so easy because we get so many things from overseas. And when you have to halt things from coming in because you're trying to get rid of a pandemic or whatever other issues we may have, if you're not growing anything here and if you're not making anything here, it makes you very, very, very vulnerable. I'm a nurse and I work in the hospital. And I remember when the pandemic happened, we were short on things like Tylenol. We were short on things as basic as IV fluids because we don't make these things. So it was crazy to me where we were having to use different alternatives and things like that because we weren't able to import things from overseas because so many things are made in other countries. And it really opened my eyes. Like, if you're somebody who's on chronic medications, do you want your products only available overseas? If something happens and all of our ports are closed off, people who rely on certain things, they're not going to be able to get access to it. So from that perspective, I understand. Now, I'm not going to sit here and just talk about tariffs and act as if they're God's gift on earth. because it is going to have, a negative impact as far as consumer prices and consumer spending. People are already not spending as much as they used to because of there's so much uncertainty when it comes to the US economy. So with the tariffs, we're expecting there's going to be a rise in cost because of the imported goods. The person the business owner, they're not going to eat the cost. You're going to eat the cost as the consumer, right? So they were expecting that to happen. The Trump administration, they still stand on the fact that, hey, in the long run, it's gonna be better for us. So with all this talk of tariffs, and like I said, people love to up the ante. I wanted to look in and see, have we ever done tariffs before? And if so, what were the average rates and what was going on with that? So if you guys look at this chart, so in the early the late 1700s and the early 1800s, tariffs were really the main source of federal revenue. So the early rates were about 15 to 20% on imports. The goal was to protect young American industries and also to fund the government, right? Because why did America even become a thing? Was because they were tired of paying high taxes, right? And in 2025, you getting taxed every which way. When your employer pays you, it's taxed. When the money touches your bank account, you've already been taxed. When you spend your already taxed money, it gets taxed. When you invest your already taxed money and that money grows, you get taxed. Like, the government is they're getting their coins. They're not playing. They're getting their money wherever they can get it, right? So in the early 1800s and the late 1700s, tariffs was their main source of revenue, right? And then I want to say like in the 1820s, it got as high to about 38%. That was about their average, right? Then around the Civil War era, tariffs increased significantly because they wanted to be able to fund the war, right? So it reached over 45% in some cases. Then in around the 1930s, during the Smoot-Hawley tariff era, it's one of the famous and infamous eras of, tariffs. They raised tariffs on over 20,000 goods, with the average being anywhere from 40 to 59%. And this was kind of wildly blamed on the worsening of the Great Depression that happened around that time. Then you have post-World War II era. It reduced, and then the average U.S. Tariff rates was anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5% on all imported goods. It was higher on specific sectors like textiles, shoes, and some agricultures, but the average U.S. tariff rates was about 1.5 to 2.5%. And then, of course, we're going to fast forward to 2018 to 2020. Under Trump's first term, he added about 10 to 25% tariffs on hundreds and billions of dollars worth of goods. This was like the first major escalation in decades. So Trump is not new to this. He implemented tariffs during his first term. And now with this term, he's doing 10% universal tariffs on all imported goods and up to 54% on certain countries like China. This pushes the average tariff rates to about 22.5%, which is the highest since 1909. So basically, all that is to say, we've been using tariffs for the longest, literally since the foundation of the US of A, right? Now, in this era, will tariffs be beneficial? Will it work? Or is it going to backfire? Do we rely too much on other countries to the point where the implementation of tariffs is no longer suitable? Trying to do something that we've done in the 1700s and the 1800s, and it was successful for them in that era, does not necessarily mean it's going to be successful in 2025, which is why I really just want to sit back and watch and see what's going to happen before I really just kind of stand on it and say, oh yeah, tariffs is going to work and America's going to be great again. Or, you know, wait a minute, this is the worst mistake that we could be making right now. You know, we have a lot going on. This is not the right move. I really just want to reserve my opinion for now, which if I had an opinion, I would share it. Because it's nothing to come back on the internet and say I was wrong or I was right, right? So I just feel like it's too early to really tell where things are going. And I know the stock market crashed and we lost trillions of dollars when this announcement was made and everything is in the red, but that's more of a reactionary. I want to see what's going to happen 6 months down the line, a year down the line, or even, you know, 2 years down the line, just to see what happens, just to see, okay, you know, was this the right move? I know people either want you to bash Trump or they want you to praise Trump. But the reality of the matter is that he's our president right now. Whether we voted for him or not, whether you liked it or not, he is the elected president of the United States. And honestly, I'm just tired of all the back and forth that's been happening lately, especially within the media. It's all very childish. It's all very performative. You have one sector where no matter what Trump does, they're just fanboys and they just praise everything he does. It's a cult. Nothing he do is wrong. And then on the other side, you have where this man could do no right. Everything that he does, they criticize it and just comes across as just straight up hate. Like you're a hater, you know? And both sides have become so cultish and very childish, and it's either you're 1000% with us or you're 1000% with them, and that's just not realistic. I'm not going to agree with everything one person does, nor am I going to disagree with everything one person does. Shoot, a broken clock is right twice a day. So I just wish that we could move forward with more integrity, especially when it comes to like reporting. I'm not a journalist. I'm here just simply a girl who's just trying to do her research, figure out what are the facts, and make my opinion based upon that. I'm trying not to be super emotional when it comes to certain topics, simply because that doesn't help anybody and is very divisive. With that being said, I thank you guys so much for watching my YouTube channel. Please comment, like, and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you guys can be up to date on my latest uploads. And I really do want to hear your opinions on tariffs. What concerns you the most? What are you the most optimistic about? I genuinely want to hear your comments, your concerns, criticisms. I'm open to it all, and just remember, you guys, to be respectful to one another. Have a great day, and thank you guys so much for watching my YouTube video. And since you're here, you know, check out another one. All right, you guys, catch you guys in the next one. It's your girl V, and I am out.